All right, let's just get one thing straight right now. The reason you're not rich has absolutely nothing to do with how hard you work. It has everything to do with the software, the programming that's running in your head. So today, we are going to deconstruct the code that separates the wealthy from everyone else. And we're using Napoleon Hill's masterpiece, Think and Grow Rich, as our guide. If you still believe that old lie that hard work is the key to wealth, just answer me this one question. Why aren't construction workers, the people literally breaking their backs every single day, the richest people on the planet? Seriously, why aren't they all billionaires? It's because of this right here. And let's be brutally honest for a second. Most people are running on the worker's software. You trade your life, your time, which you can never get back, for a paycheck. It's a simple transaction, and frankly, it's a form of modern slavery. But the creator, well, they operate on completely different code. They understand that wealth isn't something you trade for, it's something you create from a very specific state of mind. They leverage their thoughts, not just their hours. Now this slide, this is the master key. This is the core principle from Napoleon Hill that changes the entire game. Thoughts are things. And no, that's not some cute metaphor. It literally means that the intangible impulses of thought buzzing around in your brain can be, and are, transformed into their physical equivalent. We're talking money, success, whatever it is you can imagine. This means that poverty isn't your destiny. It's a choice you are actively making every single day with the thoughts you decide to entertain. So, if thoughts create reality, why aren't your little thoughts of, gosh, I'd like to be rich, working out for you? Okay, let's get into it. It's because there is a massive, universe-sized difference between a weak, empty wish and a white-hot, all-consuming obsession. One gets you absolutely nothing, the other gets you everything. Let me tell you about a guy named Edwin C. Barnes. He shows up in Orange, New Jersey, basically looking like a hobo. He had to ride a freight train to get there because he couldn't even afford a ticket, but he had one single, crystal clear goal: to become the business partner of the great Thomas Edison. Think about that. Not to work for him, to go into business with him. This guy had no money, no connections, nothing, except for this insane, definite desire. And that perfectly illustrates this mindset. You have to burn the boats. See, Barnes didn't say, well, I'll give this a shot for a while, and if it doesn't work out, I'll just go find some other job. No way. He left himself no possible way of retreat. Because having a plan B, having that safety net, is the ultimate signal to yourself and to the universe that you don't actually believe in plan A. It is a guarantee for mediocrity. So here's the bottom line. Look at the difference. A wish is totally passive. It's, I hope. It's weak. And it gets you exactly what you put in. Nothing. A burning desire, on the other hand, is an obsession. It's definite. It is a pulsating demand that you refuse to give up on. That's what Barnes had. And according to Hill, the universe only responds to obsessive demands. It completely ignores weak hopes. All right, so you've got the desire, but that alone isn't quite enough. Next, we have to tear down one of the biggest lies your ego loves to tell you: the myth of the self-made genius. That idea that you have to know it all, that you have to be the smartest person in the room. I'm telling you, that single belief is keeping you poor. Just look at the case of Henry Ford. During a big lawsuit, some lawyer tried to humiliate him on the stand, tried to prove he was uneducated by asking him all these random trivia questions. He was basically called one of the most ignorant men in America, right there in a court of law. And then came the moment that just shut everybody up. Ford, who was getting pretty tired of all the foolish questions, just pointed at the lawyer and said this: I have a row of electric push buttons on my desk, and I can summon to my aid men who can answer any question I desire to ask. In that one sentence, my friends, he revealed the secret to all great fortunes. And the secret is this: the poor man's method is trying to stuff his own brain with every little piece of information, trying to be a lone genius. The rich man's method, it's building a mastermind, a network of other people's brains that he can tap into any time. Ford didn't need to know everything. He just needed to have access to people who did. So stop trying to do it all yourself. Build your personal board of directors. The rich people don't use their own brains. They collect and organize the brains of others. Okay, so you have the burning desire and you're starting to build the team. Now we get to the programming part. How do you install this wealth software directly into your own operating system? This is where we get into the tools that can sound a little mystical or out there, but I want you to see them as what they are: logical, technical hacks for your subconscious mind. The first hack is called autosuggestion. And look, this is not about chanting weak, flimsy affirmations in the mirror. This is a direct command protocol for your subconscious. First, you define exactly what you want. Be specific, down to the dollar amount and the exact date you'll have it. Second, you visualize it with intense detail. You see it, you feel it, you already have it. Third, you read that written statement aloud every single day, morning and night. And fourth, and this is the absolute most crucial part, you have to infuse it with intense, raw emotion. With faith, you have to feel it as if it's already yours. That emotion is the fuel that bypasses your conscious doubt and forces your subconscious to accept your command as a fact. And now for the tool that most people are just way too afraid to even talk about, but it is the most powerful creative force you possess. I'm talking about your sexual energy. Hill states very clearly that this drive, when it's harnessed correctly, is the fuel for creativity, for personal magnetism, and for true genius. So, Hill says this incredibly powerful creative energy can go one of two ways. Take a look at this. It can be wasted, just dissipated on temporary physical pleasure with zero lasting gain. Or it can be transmuted, redirected into your business drive, into world-changing ideas, into that kind of personal charisma that just makes people want to follow you. He'll notice that the most successful people in history all learned how to do this. Wasting this energy is, quite literally, wasting your potential for genius. But here's the thing. Even with the right desire, the mastermind, and all the hacks, most people still fail. Why? Because they stumble at the final two hurdles. They quit way too soon, and they're completely paralyzed by fear. Let me tell you about a guy named R.U. Darby. He was a gold miner, and he actually struck a rich vein of ore. He got all the machinery, pulled up a few carloads, and then, poof, the vein disappeared. So he did what most people would do. He quit. He gave up. He sold all his equipment for just a few $100 to a junk man and went home. But that junk man, he was smart. He brought in an engineer who told him the vein was still there, just 3 feet from where Darby had stopped drilling. 3 feet. That junk man made millions. And that story perfectly illustrates a universal truth. Failure is a trickster. It has a sick sense of humor. It loves to trip you up when you are one single step away from your goal. That moment that feels like the end, like it's all over, that's often just the final test of your persistence. Darby learned his lesson, by the way, and went on to become a millionaire selling insurance because he swore he would never quit again. But what is it that makes us quit? It's these 6 ghosts. These are the fundamental fears that haunt humanity. And for most of you watching this, the 2 that are absolutely murdering your dreams right now are the fear of poverty, and maybe even more powerfully, the fear of criticism. That fear of what your friends, your family, your neighbors are going to think if you try something big and fail. So after all of this, it really just comes down to a single, ultimate choice. You can have all the tools, all the software, all the knowledge, but it is all completely useless until you make a decision. The choice is this. Are you the master of your fate and the captain of your soul, or are you just a slave to your fears and to the opinions of other people? The power has been in your hands this entire time. You just have to decide to use it. Choose now.